What if the people who were supposed to love you the most were the ones who hurt you the deepest? Living in a narcissistic family feels like being trapped in a maze with no exits. Every path leads back to guilt, shame, and confusion. You question your memory, your worth, your sanity, and worst of all, you start believing that maybe the problem is you, but it's not. This episode is for the ones who are silently drowning in obligation, guilt, and fear. It's for the survivors who smile on the outside while screaming on the inside. If you've ever felt completely unseen, even while surrounded by people who are supposed to care, this is for you. There is a way out, not just to escape, but to heal, rebuild, and reclaim your life from the ground up. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Let's begin. A narcissistic family isn't just dysfunctional, it's a psychological war zone hidden behind smiles, traditions, and family photos. At the center of it all is usually a narcissistic parent, or sometimes both. These individuals demand control, admiration, and obedience, not love, not connection. Their needs come first, always. And everyone else? They're pawns in a game designed to feed one person's ego. In these families, roles are assigned, not chosen. One child might be the golden child, praised, groomed, and idealized, but only as long as they play by the narcissist's rules. Another might be the scapegoat, blamed for everything, emotionally attacked, and used as a dumping ground for the family's dysfunction. Then, there are the enablers, the ones who keep the peace, ignore the abuse, and protect the narcissist at all costs, often out of fear or denial. Love in this system is conditional. Affection is weaponized. Boundaries don't exist. Instead of nurturing, the family becomes a machine for emotional control. Gaslighting is common. Reality is twisted. If you cry, you're too sensitive. If you speak up, you're ungrateful. If you leave, you're betraying the family. But here's the truth. Families like this don't just break your heart, they break your sense of reality. And until you name it, you stay trapped inside it. A narcissistic family isn't just toxic, it's a carefully constructed psychological cage. Recognizing that you're in one is the first, most terrifying, and most powerful step toward getting out. Because once you see the system for what it is, you can finally begin to dismantle it. Growing up in a narcissistic family doesn't just wound you, it rewires you. From a young age, you're taught that your emotions are dangerous, your voice is a threat, and your needs are an inconvenience. Love is earned, not given. Safety is conditional. You begin to contort yourself just to survive, smiling when you're hurt, apologizing when you're innocent, disappearing when you most need to be seen. Over time, this breeds a toxic internal dialogue. I'm not good enough. I must be the problem. If I just try harder, maybe they'll love me. This emotional programming doesn't stay in childhood. It follows you into every relationship, every decision, even the way you see yourself when no one else is watching. You may become a people pleaser, a perfectionist, or someone who feels uncomfortable with any kind of attention, good or bad. Trust becomes a foreign language. Boundaries feel like betrayal. And deep down, there's this gnawing belief: I'm fundamentally unlovable unless I prove otherwise. Then there's the trauma. Narcissistic abuse isn't always loud. It's subtle, chronic, and psychological. You grow up second-guessing yourself, constantly walking on eggshells, never quite sure if what you remember is real. That's gaslighting at work. It erodes your confidence and anchors you in self-doubt. And here's the cruelest twist. Because it all started in a place called home, You internalize it as normal, but it's not normal. It's abuse disguised as parenting, control disguised as concern, manipulation disguised as love. Understanding the impact isn't about blame, it's about clarity. Because until you see how deeply it's affected you, you won't understand why healing feels so hard, or why breaking free feels so terrifying. But awareness is power, and power is the beginning of freedom. There comes a moment, quiet, terrifying, undeniable, when you realize this isn't just a difficult family, it's a cycle that's slowly destroying you. Maybe it hits you during another phone call laced with guilt, or when you hang up and feel like you can't breathe. Maybe it's the sick pit in your stomach before family gatherings, or the crushing silence after you try to assert a boundary, and they punish you with coldness or rage. These are not normal dynamics, they are warning signs. You might feel chronically drained after interactions, even short ones. You constantly doubt your memory, your intentions, your worth. You may find yourself censoring everything you say, carefully packaging your words just to avoid being criticized or misunderstood. You might notice a pattern. You're always the one apologizing, making peace, carrying the emotional weight for everyone else. And if you try to talk about the dysfunction, they accuse you of being dramatic, selfish, or mentally unstable. That's not love, that's control. If being around your family makes you feel small, unsafe, or invisible, if you leave their presence feeling worse about yourself every single time, that's your nervous system waving a red flag. Escaping doesn't always start with running, it starts with seeing. And the truth is, the longer you stay in a toxic system, the more it convinces you that you can't survive outside of it. But you can, and the first step is recognizing that you need to. If this speaks to you, hit like or subscribe, it helps others find it too. Leaving a narcissistic family isn't just about walking away, it's about breaking an emotional spell. The guilt hits first, that crushing voice in your head whispering, "You're selfish, you're abandoning your family, you're the problem." That voice, it's not yours. It was planted over years of manipulation, emotional blackmail, and twisted definitions of loyalty. Then comes fear, fear of being alone, fear that you're overreacting, fear that you'll regret it. Narcissistic families train you to question your reality, to depend on their approval for your identity. Walking away feels like stepping into a void with no guarantee you'll land safely. You may also feel an unbearable sense of obligation, this haunting idea that you owe them. They raised you, fed you, clothed you. But love isn't a debt to repay, and survival isn't the same as being cared for. Then there's hope, the most dangerous barrier of all. The hope that they'll change, that this time they'll see you, apologize, love you the way you always needed. But hope in a narcissistic system is often a leash. These emotional barriers are powerful, but they are not insurmountable. Feeling torn doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Your heart wants connection, but your body knows it's not safe. And when those two parts of you start to conflict, that's your signal. It's time to choose yourself. Not out of cruelty, but out of survival, out of truth, out of finally realizing you deserve peace. Escaping a narcissistic family isn't about one dramatic moment. It's about quiet, intentional strategy. You don't just leave a system like this. You outgrow it, outsmart it, and outlast it. Start with clarity. Write down exactly what's happening. Conversations, patterns, manipulations. Not for revenge, but to remind yourself, this is real. In narcissistic families, reality is constantly rewritten. You need your own proof. Next, boundaries. You don't need to announce your exit immediately. In fact, the less they know, the safer you may be. Begin practicing small limits, what you will and won't respond to. Notice how they react. That tells you everything. Build a support system outside the family, a therapist, trusted friends, online communities of survivors. Isolation is one of their strongest weapons. Connection is yours. Plan logistically. If you live with them, make a step-by-step plan for financial independence, housing, and safety. If you're already out physically but not emotionally, strategize how to disengage with as little emotional fallout as possible. Prepare for backlash. Narcissistic families do not like losing control. Expect guilt trips, rage, manipulation, and even sudden love bombing. Remember, kindness isn't always kindness, it's sometimes bait. And finally, know your why. Write it down. Record a voice memo to yourself. When the guilt surges or the fear creeps in, come back to that core truth. You are not walking away to hurt them. You are walking away because staying is hurting you. Your exit isn't an act of rebellion, it's an act of reclamation. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be yours. Once you recognize the harm and start planning your exit, the next question becomes, how much contact, if any, should I keep? No contact means cutting all communication. No calls, no texts, no visits. It's the clearest, most protective boundary you can set, but also the most emotionally intense. It's not about punishment, it's about preservation. It's a way to reclaim your mind, your space, and your peace without interference. Low contact, on the other hand, is a controlled relationship with firm limits. Maybe you only speak on certain terms. Maybe you never discuss personal matters. You decide when, where, and how much access they get, if any. Whichever path you choose, know this. You are allowed to prioritize your well-being. There is no moral prize for staying connected to people who break you. But be prepared. Narcissistic family members often react with fury or guilt tactics when they sense control slipping. They may suddenly become concerned, confused, or overly affectionate. These aren't always signs of change. They're often strategies to pull you back in. You don't need their approval to take space. You don't owe explanations. Silence can be your boundary. Going low or no contact is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect you can make. It's scary, but it's also liberating. You're not being cold, you're choosing clarity, and clarity is where healing begins. Leaving a narcissistic family isn't the end of the pain, it's the beginning of the healing. At first, the silence can be deafening. You're no longer reacting to daily chaos, but that doesn't mean the chaos inside you disappears. Guilt might haunt you. Grief might hit you in unexpected waves. You may even mourn the version of your family you wish you had, more than the one you actually left behind. That's okay. Healing doesn't look like a straight line. It looks like confusion, backsliding, breakthroughs, and slow returns to self. Start by rebuilding your internal voice. In a narcissistic system, your thoughts and feelings were constantly invalidated. Now, you have to unlearn that self-erasure. Therapy, especially with a trauma-informed or narcissistic abuse specialist, can be life-changing. So can journaling, reading, or speaking your truth aloud without apology. Give yourself permission to feel anger. Anger isn't wrong. It's information. It tells you what crossed a line, and for many survivors, it's the first sign of self-worth returning. Boundaries will become your medicine, not walls to shut people out, but gates that decide who gets access to your energy, your time, your heart. You'll also need to rediscover who you are outside of survival mode. What do you like? What do you believe? What makes you feel safe? These are not small questions. They're your foundation now. Most importantly, be gentle. You've been through invisible war. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to come home to yourself. And you will, one brave, imperfect step at a time. Healing is only the beginning. Reclaiming your life means stepping into a reality where you get to define who you are without manipulation, guilt, or control. For the first time, you're not living for approval. You're not shrinking to avoid criticism or shape-shifting to earn love. You're choosing yourself, not selfishly, but authentically. Autonomy starts in the smallest ways, making decisions without second-guessing, saying no without explaining, asking yourself, "What do I want?" and actually listening. You may notice new boundaries forming effortlessly. You tolerate less chaos, less emotional labor, less one-sided loyalty. That's growth. That's your nervous system learning safety. This is also when you get to rebuild your identity. Maybe you pick up hobbies that were once dismissed. Maybe you explore beliefs that were once forbidden. Maybe you just allow yourself to rest without guilt for the first time in your life. Relationships will change too. You'll start recognizing red flags faster. You'll gravitate toward people who offer respect, not performance. Love that feels calm, not conditional. Reclaiming your life isn't about being fearless. It's about being free. Free to make mistakes. Free to be messy. Free to exist without begging for space. You were never too much. You were never the problem. You were just surviving a system that never deserved you. Now, you're not just surviving, you're becoming. Walking away from a narcissistic family is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. Not because you're weak, but because you're loyal, empathetic, and wired for connection. And those beautiful traits were weaponized against you. But here's the truth. You are not broken. You are not selfish. You are not too sensitive. You were hurt. And now you're healing. Escaping isn't about revenge, it's about liberation. It's about breaking a generational pattern so it ends with you. It's about becoming the person you were always meant to be, before the gaslighting, before the guilt, before the conditioning. You deserve peace that doesn't come with a price. You deserve love that doesn't require self-erasure. And you deserve a life that feels like yours. So if no one's ever told you this before, you're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to heal. And you're allowed to never look back.